Nothing feels wrong. But your experience of the manifesting state feels off. Not in a dramatic way. You're handling things without needing to fix them. You're moving through your day without constantly adjusting yourself. And that used to take effort. Now, that effort isn't there. And instead of that feeling like relief, there's this quiet emptiness. Not sadness, not frustration, just a lack of mental activity around your manifestation. And that's hard to explain at first. Because from the outside, everything looks better. You're calmer, more steady, less reactive. But internally, the manifesting state doesn't feel like what you expected. You thought letting go would feel freeing, like a release, like clarity, like something noticeable. But instead, the manifesting state just feels quiet. And when that quiet shows up, it's easy to misinterpret it, to assume something is missing, that you lost motivation, that you disconnected from your manifestation, that maybe you went too far in the other direction. But what you're actually experiencing is the space that used to be filled with effort because before, your mind was occupied constantly. You were used to keeping your manifestation active, thinking about it, returning to it, keeping it in your awareness. Even when it felt exhausting, that mental activity still filled space. It gave your attention something to return to. And now, that activity isn't there in the same way. You're not filling every moment with thought. You're not returning to your manifestation over and over. So there's a gap, and that gap feels like emptiness at first. Not because something is wrong, but because the mental effort stopped. Here's where you start to notice it in your day. You might go through your day and realize your mind isn't as occupied as it used to be. There's more space between thoughts, more stillness, more moments where nothing is pulling your attention. And instead of recognizing that as calm, your mind reads that quiet as something missing because it's not used to that level of stillness. Another way this shows up is in how you relate to your manifestation. Before, there was always movement around it. Now, that movement is gone. You're not avoiding your manifestation. You just don't feel the need to engage with it constantly. And without that engagement, it can feel like the connection disappeared. But your connection to the manifesting state didn't disappear. The mental activity around it did. And those are not the same thing. This isn't about losing intensity. This is about what's left when the mental activity stops. This is where people get pulled backwards. They try to fill the space again. They go back to thinking about their manifestation more, trying to feel something again, recreating that sense of engagement. Because doing something feels better than feeling nothing. But that nothing is actually where the manifesting state stabilizes. It's what's left when you're no longer interfering, no longer maintaining, no longer trying to keep your manifestation active in your mind. And at first, that feels unfamiliar because you've been used to constant mental movement. So when that disappears, it doesn't immediately register as peace. Your mind reads it as absence. But if you stay with it, without trying to fill it, something shifts. That emptiness starts to feel different. Less like something is missing and more like nothing is required. There's no pressure to think about your manifestation. No need to check in, no urge to make sure it's still there. It just exists. And that's a very different experience because now the manifesting state isn't being maintained by effort. It exists without you having to do anything about it. That's why it feels quiet. That's why it feels neutral. And that's why it can feel empty until you recognize what you're actually experiencing. You didn't lose your manifestation. You stopped filling the space with effort, and what's left is the manifesting state without interference. Subscribe and enter your manifesting state.